Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined by Janesh Patel. He is the CEO of Uptime Health. How you doing, my man?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Good. So you're zooming in from the Chicago midwinter, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm here in Chicago. It's actually a nice day, surprisingly, considering it's midwinter. So I'm excited to be here, and the show has a lot of people and activity, and I'm pumped.
Do you have a booth there? You're just cruising around with the t-shirt?
With the t-shirt, we have about 6 people here all walking around the floor. What we've realized is, we get a lot more done actually not having a booth, because our product is not something that is really kind of point of sale. So we have a lot of subsequent conversations, but we are not bound to a desk or a place either. So we get to be free, talk to vendors, talk to partners, and talk to clients. And so we've just seen it be a win-win for us to do it this way.
Yeah, I agree. I find sometimes if you're stuck to the booth and you're trying to, when I walk down that hallway, I feel like a piece of chum to a shark, and the booths are trying to get my attention, and I'd much rather just have a conversation with someone, or even go up to you, with that nice purple t-shirt and say, hey, what do you guys got going on? So actually tell me all about Uptime Health. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Uptime, what we do is we help people manage all of their equipment inside of their office or practice. And so basically, if you call it like a CBCT, a sterilizer, a chair, a delivery unit, all those products need maintenance or some kind of compliance, especially if it's sterilizer or, shocking water lines. And what we do is we help people manage what they own. So we tell them, based on what you own, here's how you're supposed to take care of it. Here's how you keep it from breaking down. If something does break down, they can use our product to dispatch their service technicians. So whether they're using one of the big guys or an independent, they can actually use our tool to kind of send them messages saying, hey, I need help here. And we resend them all the pertinent information, like the make, the model, the category, the serial number, so they don't have to ask for that information twice. And then as we help you do all those processes, we use the data inside of our tool. So the failure rate, the cost of ownership, the age of the device, depreciated value, all those data points to create predictive analytics for you, to tell you when you should think about buying a new device instead of repairing existing old broken ones. So it's really meant to be a tool that helps you do your day-to-day, like with the maintenance and compliance things that are share side. Then it also helps you create analytics for future decision making.
Now, how did you even get involved with helping dental offices?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good long story, but I'm gonna shorten it here for you a little bit. So basically, I'm a biomedical engineer by background, and I did a master's, and I was doing device design, and I really loved that for a while. And then I realized that I didn't love working in a lab and rubbing polymers together for 6 months and just measuring viscosities wasn't my jam. So I got my MBA, and I ended up becoming what they call a clinical engineering manager for the largest health system in Austin, Texas. And what that means is I took care of all of the equipment inside the big systems. So their MRIs or CT scanners, everything from even a suction regulator, no matter how big or small it was, we took care of it. We also made sure it was in compliance with the Joint Commission, their regulatory bodies, and we work with department leads to see when they need new things. So you can kind of see where the genesis of Uptime Health kind of comes from. Was we started acquiring a lot of urgent cares to be part of our health system. A feeder program for new patients, and a lot of people are getting their care in urgent cares nowadays. So they only wanted the critical, patients in the actual system. And using the urgent cares as a conduit was a big strategy for a lot of systems back then. But when I went to go audit them as part of my job to see are they in compliance, underneath our joint commission umbrella that they're about to become under, I realized that no one really had great processes or procedures when it came to how do they take care of the devices that they use to take care of patients. What we learned is all the providers and front desk people there, they're great at patient relationship and patient care. But when it comes to equipment care, that's really where their knowledge drops off. They know how to use the devices. Don't get me wrong. It's more of a, you know how to drive a car doesn't mean you know how to fix a car, you know, or how to make sure that it's always up and humming at the, you know, the top notch quality. And so it didn't make sense to have somebody like me on staff because there's not enough equipment or enough, you know, cost there for the savings to be worth it. So we started looking around to see if they had any products, almost software tools that automated my job at some level that was meant for doctors, providers, front desk people to use as like their tool to help support them. And there wasn't one. So that's kind of where Uptime Health, the genesis came from. We took this product to market close to the end of November 2019. And then when COVID hit March 2020, we realized if we're not selling PPE in that market, even though we could actually help support and save ventilators and find out where they are in the buildings, people weren't trying to deploy new technology when they're firefighting people's lives. You know, just every day was a constant, you know, firefight. And so we realized we had to pivot industries or we would die, because every valley in the case loads, we would grow, and every peak we would flatline. And as a startup company, you can't do that. If you can't predict your future, you can't build a company. And so we looked at all the other people, which we kind of knew there'd be a bigger market for us outside of urgent cares and surgical centers. We said, who else owns equipment that takes care of patients that doesn't really have the same knowledge in-house, but they still need all the support that you would require for just understanding how to take care of your stuff? So we listed dentistry, optometry, veterinary, med spa, you know, like we just listed it all down. And then because we charge by location, at least our product is a subscription model by location, we put a location count next to it. And I was very shocked to believe, someone who's not from dentistry, even though I have dentists in my family, I have a lot of care providers there, how big the industry was. I don't know if you know how many urgent cares there are, but you see them everywhere. And I thought that was, there's only 10,000. You know, you and me both know there's 12x plus more in dentistry. So when I saw that, it was such a glaring, this should be the market that we go test our next market in, as well as if we're learning, we're always going to learn as a startup. We're never going to be perfect day one. So if we are not perfect, are we going to burn the entire market while we're learning? And because there's so many dental offices that we could learn from and like talk to and get interviews from and realize like where the problems were, that was the easiest way to look at it. So we spent all of 2022, because it took us a couple of years to figure out which market and everything there, kind of learning dentistry, getting our first clients. In 2023, we just started exponentially growing like gangbusters, and here we are today. But that's kind of, we got into dentistry. It was serendipity, but I love it, and we're here to stay, and we're a dental first company at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can barely change a light bulb. And so for me, if something's going down, I'm in trouble. I really am, I don't know how to fix anything. So do you help private practices? Like I'm a single practice. We have 9 operatories. We have a CBCT, 3D printer, 4 scanners, you know, 9 chairs, as well as DSOs. Do you kind of, and from everywhere in between?
Absolutely. So anyone that just owns medical equipment that doesn't know themselves how to take care of it, like, you know, in terms of like they're the expert at maintaining and calibrating and managing it, that's our clients. So we have single offices, we have DSO clients, we have those, you know, called emerging DSO or groups like between 5 and 10 as well. So we actually see everybody. I just think right now, when it comes to the fact that we're such a new product in the market, for the ones that like must have this tomorrow, it's the people that have more than call it like 10 operatories or more than 5 locations, because there's just so much equipment that it's hard to know what's going on with everything at any given time. When you get below that, it becomes more of a nice to have, but we're starting to see a lot more single offices agree with the philosophy of better uptime for your equipment means less disruptions to your operations and more to predictability that your things are going to turn on and work when you get into the office the next day. Going back to the car analogy, I turn on the keys to my car and I expect it to, you know, turn on and get me to A to B. The moment it doesn't, my day's ruined. So it's like having that sense of comfort, even though if it doesn't happen very often, just not having any patient disruption workflow is important. So I think the messaging is getting down to the single offices more.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's just so much that happens to get that patient in the chair, for them to say yes to treatment, all the marketing, you know, SEO, website, call conversion. you finally get them in the chair, and then your equipment doesn't work. It could be the most frustrating thing ever.
Yeah.
Now, what are you seeing out there? You're working with DSOs and private practices, and you're in the dental market. You're at the Chicago Midwinter. Is there anything like what you have? Is there any competition?
That's a good question. So at this moment, we don't have any competition. We're the first to market with a product like what we have, which is why part of doing podcasts and just educating the market is so important to us, because our biased view of care, just in general, is all care is provided by three things. You need a patient, you need a provider, and you need some kind of instrument. You hardly find any care being provided today without an instrument. And what we've seen is so much technology and innovation go into the spaces of the provider and making sure that they're always up to speed and taken care of, which is totally important because it's one of the three variables. The patient and their workflow management and their experience, which again, very important because it's one of the big variables. But we don't see a lot around equipment outside of just net new equipment, like in what it can do, but not about managing it and that workflow in that environment. So for us, we were the first people to kind of think about that in the paradigm of the outpatient and ambulatory care spaces, going back to the medical side, but the dentistry, optometry, anyone who's not part of a health system. We're kind of the first people to think about it that way and want to say, we want to create a solution that turnkeys that third variable and takes care of it so the other two can function correctly too.
Yeah, I love technology. I love adding new things. We've added, years ago we added a cone beam CT scan. A couple years ago we added a 3D printer. Like I said, we have four scanners. I love all of the technology, but it is a major headache if something goes down. What are you seeing out there that's, it sounds like you've talked to a lot of dentists in different situations. What do you think is causing the most stressors out there for dentists that you've come by?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when we talk to any client, whether it's a DSO or an individual office, the first question we always ask is, what is top of mind for you today? Because it doesn't have to be me, but I want to learn what are the things that they're constantly thinking about in the back of their head. And I will tell you, it's staffing. And I don't think that's like an answer that surprises many people that are probably listening to this. But it feels like, finding and retaining employees has been such a hard thing, especially, one through the COVID environment, but all through now more competition, more higher salaries and just keeping their cost structure in place. That times inflation. So there's a lot of cost stressors, but the fact that there's turnover happening at the same time, it's hard to create a stable place to then create cost savings from. So I think it's a lot of the number one thing I feel is either turnover solution or solving that problem, but I think it's in parallel with just reducing the costs that are constantly being added to the average dental office every month with again, inflation, rising costs of labor, but also supplies and everything in between.
Yeah, I'm just checking out your website here, and it looks like you have a nice dashboard. I can see a sterilizer that's being tracked. I mean, we have three, but that is such a major issue. If your sterilizer autoclave goes down, you're screwed. How does it work? Let's say I just bought a new sterilizer. I have two others. How does it work as far as tracking it? If they do need maintenance, how do you help the dentist with all that?
Yeah, so basically we come in and turnkey the setup initially, and then we teach you how to self-serve. You can also build the account by yourself without any help. Everything is kind of, you can do it yourself or you can use us. So there's two ways to set up everything. One is you walk around your office, you write down the make, model, serial numbers, where it's in your building, and you can just upload that to our tool, like just a bulk upload. Otherwise, we can actually send somebody on your behalf to go do all that for you as part of an onboarding event. Once it's in the product, we learn what you own, right? So we now know how many sterilizers, what make and model they are. And then we build out what we call a task engine that tells you, because you own a sterilizer, we're going to put a task in for every week or every 2 weeks to do a biological spore sample, right? Or if you have a water line, like chairs, you do the water line testing. So we build out these compliance things or maintenance things, like every quarter, change your filter out on your sterilizer or replace the gasket every 6 months. All those things we just build into a task, and then we assign them to your team. Either it can be to individuals, it can be to groups of people, if you want to do like more of a team approach on who takes care of it. And then we track that people are doing that event. What we'll also do is we'll ask you, who is your existing service group? Do you use one of the big guys? Do you use an independent? And then we just grab their information. What's their email? What's their phone number that you contact them with? And like, can you introduce us? And the reason is we want them to learn that moving forward, service requests will come from a product called Uptime Health. And, you'll see an email saying service requested by, and it shows them everything that they're going to get on their side as a technician. But all you now you do is click a button because we've uploaded them for your product and we've assigned them to all of your equipment. And you can even do assignments on a equipment basis, or you can do on a location basis or a category basis. It doesn't matter. You can be as granular as you want. And we send out a response to that person to come out and take care of something. As they take care of it, our product tracks that the service is actually getting completed. And then it automatically stores that history information for you. So you can always look at it at a later time. Now that you're using the tool to do this, you'll start seeing a repository and a history of every time you've completed a task against that machine, every time you've completed a repair against that machine. And so you have a living history of it. But as the analytics start taking place, you'll start seeing badges that say, Eric, you got to put that on a watch list. So next time you might have excess cash, you're looking where to put it. This might be a good place. Or you got to put that on a replace list. So if you actually are going through a budget cycle of what am I going to replace this quarter or this year, here's what I'm going to take care of first. So those lists start building and you can access them through dashboards and like see exactly what's my depreciated value, what's my asset value, what's my, task completion percentage, who's not doing the task. Sometimes it's hard to track until you go look at all the binders and sheets of paper, that you're storing to like hard copy. Our stuff tells you that in real time. And we'll give you a list at the end of every day saying, Eric, here's everything that got missed today. Take care of it first thing in the morning tomorrow, or if somebody's still in the office, make sure they take care of it before they go home. So like all of those things we just automate moving forward, but the product is super simple to use. And that was a reason we thought our product needed to be so simple that if it can't beat you doing something on a piece of paper, like signing your name and a date, then we can't exist. So that was the idea behind our user interface and like how quick we want you to be in and out of our product. We don't want you to live in it. Less than 5 minutes a day is all you should be using this for.
How does it work with the technician? If I just purchased some equipment, it goes down or it's time to be serviced. Do you set us up with a technician if we don't have one?
Yeah. So if you don't have one, we have the industry's first marketplace of technicians. So you can actually go select the facility. Let's say you have multiple facilities or you have one. You can say, I want to find a technician near me at this location. Since we have your address in our system, we know where you are physically in the world. And then what we can do is start showing you everyone we know of in your region that can take care of your kinds of equipment because we know what you own too. And so you can start going there and saying, I want to talk to this person. You can negotiate your own rates, or there's a whole other solution called Uptime Services where you can actually just ask us to do it for you. And it feels more Uber-esque, but it's really you're saying, Janesh, I just need this fixed. I trust that you've done your quality control checks and everything of who you're going to send out. But something went down and your team can dispatch whoever they see and we'll send you the quotes and we'll do that for you all real time. So we want to give you ways that you control your own destiny, but we want to give you a lot of options to do it with at the same time. But we see people try all three categories and they love it all.
Is it a bit more challenging if you're more rural and there's less technician availability?
Yeah, so that's a labor problem that's hard for us to solve because at the end of the day, what we're just doing is as we get clients, a good example, let's say we're in a rural area. I'm going to just pick on Iowa. And I don't want to offend anyone listening from Iowa, but it's really hard to find technicians there. And that's just a matter of fact. It's not meant to say anything else. It's just, there's not a lot that even we know. But if somebody opens up our product in Iowa and adds a technician that they know of, or maybe it's a relative that's just very handy that knows exactly what they're doing with dental equipment. Again, they can add whoever they want to come out and service things. Then that person then has the ability, hopefully it's a biomed technician, to add themselves to the marketplace too, because we'll set them up with a profile because maybe they want more work at the end of the day. And we will ask them things for give us your certification. So if they are certified, they can actually post them up there. If they have labor rates, they can post them up there. So we start building a marketplace organically from clients, as well as our own sourcing team. So we try our hardest to find as many resources for you as possible. Sometimes we can't solve it. It's always tough, especially in rural areas, but we're doing our best to get more and more people into the platform. So that's less of a problem.
All right, let's wrap up with two final questions. Number one is, how do we find out more? How do we get a hold of you? And number two is, what advice would you give to the young dental professionals out there?
Yeah, so how you can find out more, uptimehealth.com. That's UPTIMEHEALTH. That's where you can find a lot of information about us. There's a contact us button up there. It'll get you to me or my sales team or anybody else in the company that you're trying to reach. So that's the easiest way to read more about us and then find us. Following us on LinkedIn, we put a lot of information, just more education information about like how the world's looking and the future of, the industry from our point of view. Again, just other ways to get information. I think my advice for any future, dental professional is the future's bright. As a startup here in the dental technology industry, I can't tell you how many other companies I see that are just doing amazing things. And in my advice to you is explore those things. Like Eric, you just said you see something cool, you're going to put it in your office because you want to try it. It's novel. At least back then it probably was, and now it's more standard. There are technology products that are doing things to automate a lot of administrative work today. There are technology products that are trying to make your life simpler. They're having a hard time, finding adoption because what happens, especially in the medical world, again, I have a lot of medical families, so I learn and breathe through them, but you get trained and you get brought up through a system because that's now what you know very well. And it's sometimes hard to break that training. You just spend extra years of your life learning and perfecting to do it a different way. And I think that creates a little bit of a lag effect of adoption of new technologies in the industry. And it's no one's fault. But I would say, look at that. Just because you were trained to do like this kind of, admin work or these kind of note taking doesn't mean there's not an automated note taker out there and that you shouldn't use that. So think about those things that you wish there might be a technology solution for. From what I'm seeing, there probably is, and just go check it out.
Yeah, that's great advice. I write a lot about that in my latest book, Stress-Free Next Level Dentistry. And I just love, trying new things and technology. And if something hits and you really, love it, it's going to re-energize you. And you're going to look back and say, I wish I had done this, years ago, but I always say better late than never. And, to get out there and try new things and new technology. So Janesh Patel, such a great episode. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, Eric. And it was appreciate being on this and just talking to you and answering these questions. But I hope this is educational and informational to your audience.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress-Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress-Free Dentist.